just won there, I think, almost in the championship, and then we have a 10U that plays tonight to get to the championship.
Yeah.
They
Played
played
rain.
They got like 3 inches.
Oh, so it was pretty pouring.
Yeah.
That sucks. I was just spitting.
Hello?
I'm trying to keep my shirt trying to be basic.
Hi.
All right, we've got your ready to roll here.
Okay, thanks.
No, it was just enough to make it.
I think that's,
Down there.
that's our,
I guess overnight they got 2, and then they got 3 inch. And then they played 1 game.
Kelly's up home, Kelsey's not too well.
I never heard from Clint, but I bet he's in there.
Yeah, oh, man.
I would guess he was down there. Yeah.
So if we do a report,
Very good. Camera good.
yeah, good.
Call this meeting to order. Do we have any additions to and/or approval agenda?
I have you guys just on my report, so it's not technically in the agenda, but it's
Okay.
it's all right.
Yeah, that's good then. We get to approve our, motion to approve the agenda.
I had a motion to approve the agenda.
Second. Agenda approved. Visitors to be
We
heard.
have to vote on that still.
Yes.
All in favor?
Even, yeah. Aye.
Counter sign. Agenda approved. Alright. Do you have any visitors to be heard? I don't know if anybody's just like, here to speak or.
We could do the new report.
Yeah.
Why don't we cover it at the, report?
Okay.
Okay. On to the minutes from the June 6th meeting. Any adjustments need to be there? If not, we get a motion to approve the minutes on June 6th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes on June 6th.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
You,
Is Kelsey on the line?
No.
Oh,
Kelly.
Kelly.
okay. Alright, all in favor? Say that.
Aye.
Counter sign.
Um,
Okay, minutes approved from June 6th meeting.
Kelly, can you clarify, was that a 9 to approve?
yeah, sorry,
Thank
I
you.
can't, it keeps cutting out on me. Sorry.
Okay, reports, Parks and Rec manager, Steve.
I guess basically just running down there. Soccer, the fall registration will open in July here. It's all ready to go. It's just basically opening it up. I was kind of just waiting till after baseball, softball. That way people didn't have to think about it until after that. Baseball and softball, we're getting to the end of the season. Softball teams, I know this was talked about previously by age. I did think we need to just clear this up, and and maybe we have to do this at a different time. I know Clint kind of was the one behind the wording there. I don't really know exactly what it was. Did we ever find?
So is this to have a 14U team, do you have a 13 team, a 14 team?
Correct. So basically it is, I guess it was approved maybe last year or something, that softball would be, if you are 5, there's going to be a 5-year-old team. If you are 6, there's a 6-year-old team. 7-year-old team, 8-year-old team, is my understanding. Or they basically go by birthdays and go, U10 are a team, U10 are a team, or whatever it turns out to be.
Softball's so different because of that.
Right.
Right.
So that's,
And you're gonna.
this year we did not do that because I didn't know about it, so.
I think they used to always just do, older team and the younger team.
So if there are, let's say there's plenty of 14
mix them or bag them, and that's what these.
And what if they're saying no?
But if you go down, you still playing tournaments with like, it's 14U, or it don't matter, or do you ever play like 13U tournaments?
See, and that's, I don't know what it turns into.
Well, that's what you call it this year, like for
Right.
Lily and she moved up, cause you said, hey, we need some more players up here to fill these teams, and that was fine with us.
And that's what it, you know,
That's alright, as long as you.
The
if
younger
you're
one
there,
has a problem, it's just the older that came with it.
So and maybe we can bring that up again when, you know, more people are here to have that discussion.
Yeah, I think so, but it's something we wanna cover before we get too late into the fall.
Right, oh, yeah,
So
for sure.
if we're going to change something, we've got
That
a
way we can
policy
do it.
established
Correct,
right now for next year's registration.
So would it be the next person that's oldest? Would be automatically the first person that moves up, or? I mean, that's something that.
I don't know that either.
I'm just.
I
don't know.
did, yeah, I talked to Clint and I
I'm
said,
just
well, so
curious
what
how
if the
that
top
would go.
12 have all the coaches in it? Then how do you do,
Mhm.
you know, you mix them up, so then you have all the youngs with one older? I guess it was talked about previously.
Just makes them younger coach.
Well, and that's, yeah, I mean, what it turns out to be is
That's
what
already
it gets.
just
So,
to make it.
I don't, and we can bring it up again, is basically.
So we've done that in the past, maybe, do you
I
think,
think so.
already? And they're just trying to clear it, like put it in the policy.
Correct. Right now, the policy
So
says
that
that
we
teams
can
are
say
named
we-
randomly, and that's, I just basically went 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's how it turned out.
So they could do it like baseball and do like the coaches thing and.
Right.
split them
And,
legally.
and the coaches were here when we did that, right? So they picked, you know, they split up some of the pitchers as you got.
Right. Yeah, just have
Right.
They try to do what players would.
Correct.
You're not a pitcher here.
But you know, we talked about a few of them, and then once it was like, everybody's, and then it was just, yep. So yeah, that can be brought up again. Well, that kind of. Oh, go ahead.
Why don't we have, maybe probably cover this as early as next month, but, depending on your availability,
Yeah.
just to come up with what a draft policy might look like,
Right.
how we would amend it based on input from
Okay.
coaches and park board members.
That way we have, yeah, something to tweak at the next meeting.
Yeah, either August or September, I think
Right.
would be fine.
Okay. And that kind of leads into the 14U baseball. They kind of same thing. Right now, we mix them together, and our competitiveness is not very great, is what I would say, and it's kind of frustrating for some of them. So I don't know if we have a 13U more team. Like you said, there's 13U tournaments out there, and there's 14U, but then with numbers, that's the tricky part, guys.
Are the numbers usually
You think there's enough?
each side?
So what we have this year is we had 32 kids go out, 14U. And we could have gone 2 teams of 16. Jeff was actually the only person that volunteered to coach. When I found out we needed more coaches, I said I'd step up to the plate and help out. So Jeff and I talked, it's like, we don't want 16 kids on our team because it's a mess. This is my 3rd kid going through this, and it's Jeff's 3rd kid going through this. Kurt coaches his junior legion, he had a kid go through this too. It's a mess when you have that many kids. But it's a mess when you have 3 teams of 10 because the quality of play is poor. And the kids that can play don't get better. And they get frustrated. And I even have a son that says, this is the way it's gonna be, I don't wanna do this again next year. So what we're proposing is to do a tournament team and keep them all year. And just have them play competitively. The teams we play don't do what we do. It's the better kids are playing up, and that's who we're playing against. You look at Madison, they have a 13 and 14 team. You look at West Central, they have a 13-14 team. Tri-Valley has a 13-14 team. Beresford, when they have enough kids, 13-14. Dakota Valley, 13-14. T does it too. So when you get to the big diamond, you are competing to go to the state tournament. You're not automatically in.
Right.
So we are proposing that we do a tryout, and after proposing that we do a fall tryout, and you have a set number of kids that you know are going to be on the team. We know there's 12-year-old kids that have some development from fall to spring. So you don't fill your roster after the fall tryout. You fill your roster after a spring tryout. So you do a fall, you get 8, 9 poor kids. Then you do another tryout just to see who those other kids could be to fill a full team. And you go 12, 13 kids. Again, this is a proposal. This isn't something that, we're willing to work. But I am telling you that rec teams and having a tournament team is not working right now. And we've complained about this for the last 6, 7 years, and it's gotten to a point where if I'm going to continue to coach, something's got to change. And I'm willing to continue to coach. But when my son says, I can't do this anymore, then it's like, we have to do something different.
I think that age you have to start,
So other towns are just doing their tournament teams.
They are.
You're not doing a rec league. Once you get to that age, till you make it,
Right, and so
They may have a number of kids on the team, but they're not playing. I mean,
So would this be a rec team or a tournament team?
this would be a tournament.
be a tryout.
That what we would do is we would just call different, there's an I-29 league. They got 19 teams in it. There's an I-90 league. They've got about 20 teams in it. Then we got the southeast corner, and there's like 8 teams, something like that. 7 teams maybe.
the other problem at 13, 14 is you need to practice more. 12, 10, 12 under, 10 under. I was could manage both because I was coached a rec team and then I coached a tournament team usually too. It's pretty easy to manage both teams at that age because they don't require quite as much practice time. But 14, when you get on the big field, it's a lot of practices to try to do both teams. So I'm coaching right now the rec team and then trying to coach have Aaron coach the tournament team as well. It's just a lot of time. So one team would be, and that's I don't think we would still have rec teams available. I guess in my mind. I mean, it's not like
you still have enough to
you're not
have.
getting anybody out of the picture. It's just
Yeah.
instead of the tournament team
I
playing.
think if we had a different league, is there a less competitive league you can go in for the other kids? Or is there,
I don't know what Stevens
Kind of the
Falls
same.
offers.
right?
That would be the one that could be a potential.
I think
But
they
now
have,
the
they have
team-
different levels too, they have a rec and a, I think there's 2 different ones.
I know there's one like west of us too, that's some smaller towns that could be a possibility.
It's to the point where even the Centerville's beating us 14-2.
Yeah.
And pitchers are watered down, and it just.
Are you proposing a 14U and a 13U, or 2
We're
maybe
proposing-
tournament teams? One, these are the top
Mix it up.
tournament team kids. Here's the second group, but a 13U could be up here still in the 14, or
I think
in the
so.
top group.
Yeah, proposing a tournament team for sure to stay together all year.
Okay,
Here's the other issue we run into. We have 2 amateur teams. We have a Legion, we have a Junior Legion, and we have 3 14U teams. We have 7 teams competing for the big field. And when it's game day, the fields are chalked and ready to go by 4 o'clock. And, I know I'm in education, but the perception is that when I'm working, well, I still work. Tomorrow will be my first full day off. So all the way through, you still can't get on the field
can't
till
practice
3.
enough.
That's what I'm trying to say. Is I can't practice until about 3 o'clock.
Time to game.
So I gotta go talk to the guys dragging fields and stuff. It's like, hey, can you hold off until about 4:15 till I get done with practice, so that way then you can work on the field. So that whole competition with the field is, it's just,
It's closer.
yeah.
Chat job.
So it's less teams for us to have to manage to get them on the field in practice. It would be a first time thing, I know that. We're willing to do a trial run with it. If it fails, then we say, hey, we tried it, we go back to the way it was. But I think we have to at least give it a try. In my personal opinion, and Jeff's personal opinion, and I know Kurt, we've talked to him a lot too. And on the quality of play, when they get up to Junior Legion, not having,
Some of them kids.
right, or having playing on teams that are competitive, knowing what it's like to play on a team that's competitive for a whole year, they really don't get that until they go to Junior Legion. It's like, wow, I'm not going to play this whole game, because they're so used to playing, because we got that rec mentality for 14s and 13s.
I've been watching this grade group for as long as I can remember. Griffin, my stepson, plays in it. And this year I've seen a real regression. These kids were the most talented kids around. And now you watch them play in these rec games, and the talented ones are falling asleep in the field. The talented ones aren't hustling. The talented ones are beat down, and they don't want to be there. And I think the worst thing you can do is take the talented kids and lower them to the point where they're not enjoying the game. We want everybody to enjoy the game, the good kids, the bad kids, whatever. You're putting them in a position right now to be miserable on the baseball field, and I think something got to be done about it.
So let me clarify one more time. We're really looking at one tourney team, and then the other kids would still have the opportunity of a rec team. So
Depending on
we're
numbers,
not cutting
one,
them.
it could be two.
We're not
depending on
stopping
numbers.
them from playing.
No, absolutely not.
And that would probably make, it'd probably make, in my opinion, because I've coached baseball a few years, but it'd probably make them kids that don't play as much pitching wise, positions they don't play better. Maybe you'll get a couple kids out there later too. You know,
The tourney team kids
but
would
if they
still,
never play that position, they're not gonna.
the tourney team kids would still play on the rec team.
They would not.
So I think tourney team is, we almost want to say a competitive team. And then a more relaxed
Still
team.
playing.
If they're not playing as part of the rec program, I don't know how we can.
Right.
But if
That's
they're
another
playing,
offer. That's, I mean, is that,
For the numbers usually. But I do know a lot of towns around do that.
right,
Yeah.
right.
I think Marshall, my uncle has a team in Marshall and his boys, and they call it a traveling team, but it's still part of it there. And he's got twin boys, and one of them's very talented, and one's not as talented, so one plays in the travel, and the other plays up, you know.
And I
as long
would
as it's
assume,
running through the Parks and Rec, would it be considered a rec team still, or?
I think we would have to significantly change our policies.
Okay.
You just start at 14U.
Here it says you want to split the 14U to 13 and 14U, is it correct? So you got,
well, I
Not
didn't,
necessarily.
that was just kind of odd. We talked about it for like 20 minutes and I was like, okay, I gotta get this in here, basically. I would say, looking at the numbers, that 32 number is gonna go up, because I know that
Oh, yeah,
sixth grade
definitely.
group, there's a lot of good baseball players in there and they're gonna continue. I know the fifth grade group's a little down, I would say, but like looking at like our son's age, there's 6, 8U teams. I mean, so we're going to
keep that going.
right, but and maybe it does turn into a 13U, 14U eventually kind of thing. So I don't know what the, I get what Nate's saying too, though. If we're looking at our policies, it says every kid gets to play, and that, you know, and if we are.
But you're not stopping it.
Right, and that's the thing. We
To
have to
me,
just
you
make
have
sure.
to team, that's the
But there are,
competitive, and then the other kids still play, they're just,
Right.
you just tier it instead of
It's almost like
starting
A,
at
B, C,
rec, and
you
then
know.
you tier it with a tourney team.
The less competitive kids are gonna get more time. How many times do you have to squeeze a kid in for an inning because?
Well, I've been counting around at least 4 times, so then they're only playing 5 innings instead of 7.
Right.
So then it gets hard to get, instead of getting 7 innings, you get everybody, you got 5, and then you gotta hustle, because you're like, oh boy, you're going.
kids like me, but it's
Yeah. Jim, and which isn't bad because we only have 11, right? So I mean, that hasn't been a problem. It will be if our numbers keep going up. So no, I don't, yeah, I definitely not less teams. I mean, I think you still have all the same, it's just what that one competitive team that you have today.
Build that cohesiveness with each other and that trust with each other and knowing each other's strengths and weaknesses. Right now, you know, we play on Saturday, and we're trying to call and get as many games as we can. We got another game July 8th, we go to Canova, but with our rec teams playing on, if you play twice a week, he plays twice a week, and the other team plays twice a week. They have no time to get together to do anything with anybody.
Right.
So, and it showed on Saturday when we played against Barton, is like, these are routine plays these guys should be making, but
Just a different position.
we haven't practiced practiced enough on those types of things with those specific kids, because most of your time and attention is on the kids that can't perform other skills.
So the part that has a hard time fitting into our policy, Nate, where do you think that they're thinking just due to the fact that they're not going that traveling team wouldn't play our rec league teams, they would go be joined.
Yeah, if it's not a part of our rec teams, it makes it more, I've got to look at it, does it make it more exclusive than our current process does? The one thing you don't want to get into is, well, there's a special program over here for the talented players.
Right.
And there's this program over here for the rest of you. And that's something that we have to stay very clear of. For a number of reasons, but I think is there a way we could design it? Maybe, I don't know.
Is there, so like, has 14U ever played with VFW or through the Legion?
14U has always been VFW. Legion doesn't.
But like now they're in the rec league, and then they go play state, but there's like Legion.
VFW and Legion can't cross play.
No.
That's why we switched junior Legion to, we switched junior Legion.
So since 16 was junior league.
Gotcha. That's what I. That's what I.
If Legion went down to 14U, I'd be so into going to,
Well,
to
that's
the
what
Legion side. But there's not that
Has
doesn't
that ever been an option? Or
No,
nobody's
it's never
ever.
an option.
So essentially, what we're recommending is no different than today. The only difference from what we're proposing, what we're doing this year is they just don't play on both teams. I guess that would be the only separation, because we still have a tournament team for tryouts,
Right.
and they're separate.
Right.
We'll go on to the tournaments. So in my mind, the only difference is they're just not playing both teams. They're just playing.
And that's in the policy, though. The policy is if you play in a tournament team, you have to play right.
Play the
Right. And the part of it that isn't policy is that we can't, as a city government, we cannot pick winners and losers on our program. And if this is a different flavor to it of exclusivity, what does it open us up to? So that's just one of those things.
So you'd have to call it just a VFW team instead of.
Do you have these other towns are doing stuff? I don't know if you can see how
I
they
haven't seen that. See, I think they almost sponsor themselves, kind of, don't they?
That'd be interesting to see.
What's that?
The other towns, how do they do that?
They all enter region play. They are all CFW, and they go into
They're
the
going through
regions.
the rec.
It's like Madison will take two teams to region.
I'd be interested in learning what, how T is
Right.
structuring
Well,
this.
that's I can.
So there's 14s and 13s. They're separated. There's not a specific.
But they don't play in the rec.
No.
Theirs is
There is no rec league in 14U.
Right.
There is not a rec league anywhere in 14U.
Except maybe Sioux Falls.
Except for maybe Sioux Falls where they have SEPA. And I don't even know if they extended to 14. I couldn't tell you that. I know SEPA is 12 or 10, but you do the I-29 league and it's not rec.
Are we?
We are not in a league. We are in a group consortium.
We just go out one night and.
Well, no, and I knew that's how you make it. That's no. Okay.
No standings, no personnel, nothing. It's, hey, when you want to play,
Play some games.
Has it always been that way?
it's always been that way
That's interesting.
with that group.
So it is. I mean,
So
if
when
we
you
had a
join,
preference,
like,
which
so there's an
would you like to know?
Like for us,
Like
you have to buy a Lennox. If we join the I-29 league, there's a big fee and somebody lines up the Elks for you and Elks come to us. And you don't have to worry about that, or whoever the rep
Would
is.
that be the one we would try to join? The I-29?
That would be an option, or what we would do is we would just call around, like I called Canova, we called Parkston, we called, just try to get some weekly games, and then we do some tournaments on the weekends.
Are there any teams similar in size to us that you play with? I mean, because if they're,
Canton or.
Canton doesn't have a team,
Be-
but yeah, we
because-
play Beersford, Vermillion, Point Valley, we play Elk Point.
you
Johnson.
still play theirs even though they're in that different.
Yep.
Okay. But yours are more independent.
Yep,
Okay.
all those teams I just mentioned are all independent with each other.
think it's gonna be like you said, Nate, in the wording of it to make sure, and I'll talk with T over there and
Yeah,
kind of
figure something
see,
what they're doing.
see
But
what
if there's
they're
a
doing.
tryout, isn't there still a chance that they can make it anyway? So is it really,
Well,
you know, if you have the option to do it, just go on and work it.
you do, but
You know.
you by having this team not a part of the rec team, you're setting them aside as something different.
But you give them an option to do it.
What we're,
So you're not
We've
telling
also
them-
acknowledged that they, at this meeting, that those players clearly will not make that team. We know that they're not going to make that team.
I think the mentality,
Okay.
I think the mentality that, and I'm not saying it's what you have to do, but I think the mentality that you guys need to have when you go to the big diamond is that rec goes away. It's not rec anymore. We're
It's
the
just a
only,
weird
we're
year.
the
It's in
only
between
ones
year.
that have that rec mentality. I don't know how the wording goes, how policies are stated or not, but when you get to the big diamond, every other town,
They're doing to
there's no rec. They're not splitting teams up and drafting kids and making sure that everybody's got high and low, and
Right.
they're not doing
It
that.
turns into be good competitive because you get to that certain year that you get shot out of cut off.
And if everyone else is competitive, we need to be too.
And we're not right now.
Right.
Because that all it
I
does,
mean, we need to
it
give
hurts
the
our
chance
kids,
to be
it hurts our
competitive.
kids down the road, not
It
having
does.
that competitiveness.
Right. Confidence and all those things.
Oh, big time.
But I think probably the biggest change to what we're talking here is probably to our mission statement and program objectives and our policies, and that's not a small thing. We have to take that and change.
And in your policy, what does it state? Like, does it state an age?
No, so I'm talking mission statement, program objectives. It's very, what's that?
Just like if it's ran through the city, it has to be that way.
Well, you can change your mission statement.
Right.
There's,
Because right now, Legion, you guys have nothing to do with it, right?
Right.
right. So Steve, if you want to see what T is doing, or maybe just a few towns,
For sure.
see how it works, how they're structuring
I
it.
think it's definitely something we need to look into.
And that I'll even, see if I can find other towns too. Like Dakota Valley, I think.
Well, whoever's starting with 29 or
And I'll talk to the I-29 league, yeah.
maybe reach
Del
out.
Rap, yeah. Del Rap, yeah.
Dells is who kind of manages or?
No, they're all in it. I don't know who manages it, but
I'll see if I can.
I talked to the guy from Canova because they got out of it because they have 14U kids that are brought off and play 16U2, and in the I-29 league, they don't have double hitters. And he needs to have double hitters, so they joined the I-90 league. But he said you pay your money, and the guy lines up all the umps, and he manages the schedules, all of that.
That part I love.
Yeah, you just tell him what night, you tell him what night you can have a field for us, that was what you would say. You know what I mean?
Well, then we have to consider too, does field scheduling does it still take precedent for the
Yeah.
the youth teams? I think it does.
it doesn't,
But-
necessarily fix our field issue, because you're still gonna have the same amount of people.
Yeah, but you guys get first pick too. I mean, granted, we have certain nights that are kind of the amateur nights.
It's tight.
Or 15 feet beyond.
I've had a lot of practices, and I think I've only practiced on the field 3 times, maybe. Otherwise, I've been in the football field.
And that's the benefit of me as a bullet.
And I can't
always
go.
tell Cam and Gab, and I said, can you hold off till 4:15?
Right.
And they've been great about
Yeah,
it.
they're accommodated where you can, but
And
at some
then
point
what
you
you
gotta
gotta
chop
make
them.
them be that is say, blow the small ones and then.
That just brings up a whole new conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we can talk to them about that, for sure. I don't know if, I know does Chancellor have a field? Someone brought up.
They have a field, but it's out of commission this year, if I remember right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, turf this year, they
Not
have.
deep enough to play a game on, I don't think.
No, it doesn't meet the
But
criteria.
it is a big.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
they're not far.
It doesn't have the, okay.
The one on the south.
But it doesn't have grandkids, does it?
No, it's
It used to, didn't, I don't know.
I don't think it
not.
does.
It's certain moments, yeah. But we want to be competitive with our kids. We want our kids to enjoy it. The older you get, the less kids will go out. I don't want to see Lennox, and I've been in the community for 22 years now, and I know that the tradition of Lennox, even before that, when I played all through my years and playing amateur baseball and coming here and playing in Lennox and stuff like that, I don't want that to die out. we're going to lose some kids that we could have hung on to. Or, and I also don't want to have the option of, so you guys say no to it, I don't want to have that decision of, okay, do I send my kid try out for a travel team?
Right.
Or do we just form our own team, be separate from the city? We don't want to do that.
Like what's Lennox on that shirt?
Yeah.
That's what our Dells team does. It's separated. They don't even participate in rec leagues anymore.
You got a lot of kids that are on travel teams. The Henrys and all those guys.
That's an issue that I know with, there's so many of those, whatever they're called, club teams and all that stuff, that's hard. So yeah, I'll check with T and maybe Del Rapids and things and try to get a hold of the I-29 League, and then I guess we'll chit chat about that kind of with the softball policy. I feel like the wording's gonna be hard. Like you said, if we wanna give it a shot anyways.
We'll figure it out.
I'd say we look at that, see what they have,
Right.
and go from there.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks for hearing us out.
appreciate it.
The next thing on there was this last weekend we had the tourneys and just team reports and things. The 10U baseball, I think we had one team like third or fourth right in there, and then they kind of trickled down from there and stuff. 12U, you guys got second, I believe. And there was another. They were all towards the
We were all top.
top 4 or 5, I would say, somewhere in there. And then softball is still kind of going. I know we have some teams left. That's what that was about. Sorry, they're trying to get a meeting together on when these games are going to be tomorrow and all kinds of stuff. So,
Games delayed today.
well, Saturday it was in Vermillion and they got a bunch of rain.
Really?
So they
Called them at 1 on Saturday.
they got like one game in or something.
2 games.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay. And then they called them and then they started the day and they got way
Way
behind.
behind, and so there's even games scheduled tomorrow night, 6, 7, and 8.
So yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
because if they win tonight, they'll play tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah, they'll play tomorrow no matter what, because they've won.
And that's-
So,
yeah, this says 12U won their 4 p.m. game. So I don't know. They're playing in 6 against Canton to go to the championship. So I mean, we're doing well. I think.
yeah,
It's just
I watched the teams. I think the girls are starting to play really good.
yeah, and I think it's just
all the Lions teams.
turning into a little too long, maybe. There is a few games left after the 4th of July. Just FYI, I think maybe a handful.
You know what? That will get fifth.
That's there in my hands. I didn't know their schedule.
Jeff, I'll
Yeah.
coach myself in
One or 5 games for each baseball and softball,
It's that week, like the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, it's right in there.
Okay.
And then, obviously the tournaments are later on than that or whatever, so. But yeah, everything will be done next week. By the week after, yeah, correct. So 2 weeks roughly.
Okay.
And then we talked about, Nate and I have been talking about like a barbecue for the coaches, umps, and just to everyone to say thank you. I think, yeah, it's just food, but food goes a long ways, I really think. And we talked about even doing it with the city, the pool or something, just to.
Last year we did it with all the city employees, the lifeguards were invited, park board, planning commission, just have a big get together. So I think we just gotta find a date.
And, right. Well, and
That's
it's
usually
great,
the challenge, right?
And even maybe it's a
Mitch can come too.
August thing, something into that sort. So. Keep going. Concessions. Thank you to the people that I know. Kelly, thank you for this last weekend, and like Kelsey's done a lot. I know, and I don't know. The sign up thing is hard, and I don't know. My next year idea is on there if you want to read through that. A few other things, like I understand we're out of ring pops, but the Coke guy couldn't deliver water this week. So, I feel like ring pops is maybe not a priority at this time. And I get those things, and I understand we have to say, oh, we're out of those, but
We will get what we can get.
right, it's kind of, so that's the one thing I hope people, literally, the Coke guy called me on Thursday and said he couldn't deliver water, so I had to go buy from the grocery store.
At least he's giving you a heads up.
Right, yeah, I was left. Whew, you're kidding, deliver water? water? But anyways, the next year idea, I guess, basically, I don't know, the wording is not great there, I know that, but when you register, you would either select coach or concessions. If you select concessions, you would, here comes the calendar, you're gonna click the June 4th week, and sometime during that week, you need to work, and or something like that. And I know it's gonna be hard, because your kid's gonna have a game somewhere, and I get it, there's games every night, and I get, but, if I feel like if we, right now, it's the same people over and over. Some people have done it 15 times, and some 0.
Yep.
I agree with that. I think everybody, if
And
you have something going on, most people in town know enough people that can even go grab, hey, can you run concessions tonight? Right. I mean, I would even call my father-in-law. Ken hasn't had kids in school forever. He would go run the concessions.
Right.
He would love it. Really.
Right.
So,
and and I don't care if they switch or that kind of stuff. But I think if they have a date down,
Yeah,
they're in charge of it. I think that would help. At least that way, it's way beforehand. I gotta work concessions this week, and stuff like that. So I mean, like for example, this 10U tournament that was in town, there's a family that has only 8U kids and younger, and she was there for like 6 hours. Yeah.
I have a question. When they register, if they don't pick a date for concessions, can they not continue their registration?
Yeah, we can set it up that way.
Others can require it.
You get a fee or
Or do that this week.
I don't know if we did it this year,
My
but-
feedback on the fee was I'll easily pay
People want to pay it, and
$25.
they will not do it.
because their time is worth it. Yeah.
And I mean, I wouldn't agree with that. I would pay $25.
I think you're still in the same boat. You don't have to
Right, yeah. I'll be on it, yeah. So, I think, Kelly, we would have to probably word it as you have to pick a week,
or it won't let you continue.
or it won't let you continue. I know that stinks. And maybe we only do it for the age groups that play on that field. Maybe it's only the 10U, 12U parents. I mean, between softball and baseball, that's still probably 100 parents.
League, if everybody signs up, and there's no spots open anymore.
What? And you got
Fantastic.
And right, everybody's really gonna wait till they do it, and maybe that's. And I don't know as if we do that. I don't know. I haven't figured out the details. I'll be honest. So.
I did mention that to people, kind of as an idea of what was kind of suggested for concessions, and the parents that I've talked to is not like that idea. And I understand that, we need workers, but I don't think people like to commit. I mean, I don't. I think that we've talked about this. I don't want to have to commit 4 months before before we even start or whatever it is. I think it's something that we need to think about a better way, because parents don't volunteer, but I don't think parents want to be cornered into picking a week. At least everyone I talked to, they said, they don't want to do that. But they're also the parents who work. So.
The coaches commit, and they have to be there.
Right.
Yeah.
My other idea is.
I don't want to.
And I don't think you should. That's
I don't have a deal.
Like if you are coaching, that's a job in itself. You should not do concession. The only other idea I had was that each team would get like a week. So for example, it'd be 12U Hanson's week.
That's a better.
I think
Your team has
You
to.
can fill it.
Your team's in charge of concessions. If nobody's there, I'm calling you.
Your kid ain't playing.
Right. There's not gonna be.
You're benched.
So that was the other idea I had. I know other towns just sub it out to other people, and I don't necessarily want to go there.
We talked about the finance.
I mean, you just lose a lot of income, right? Like T does that, and they don't care. They got enough kids, whatever.
Sales tax there.
Right, exactly, and stuff. So,
What's like the percentage of, let's say, I guess the budget's here, I didn't look too close at it. What's the general, percentage of what we get on concessions towards what we bring in to be able to spend?
So if we're spending $100 on supply, on inventory for concession, we should expect $200 in revenue.
And then that revenue that we get, how much of our budget does that make up? I mean, I'm guessing it's quite a bit.
For 2020, which was
Well, that was COVID, so that's nothing, yeah. It's about half in 2018. I don't
for
know.
the 2021 budget. Look at the wrong one.
19, 15 grand.
Concessions, we budgeted for 6,000 expenses, and we budgeted for this is off. This is, excuse me.
And
So let's look at 2019 instead. 2019, we raised $15,000 was our revenue in concessions. And our expenses were 16, but that included the construction of the
Whole new
concessions.
building.
But generally, you're looking at in between, I would say 8 and 16,000. A lot of that depends on how many tournaments you have. If you have tournaments, you're going to really increase that number.
And that's out of a $44,000 budget, we'll say. Right, so
Give or
about 30% of it
Right, 30,
comes from that.
Correct.
Okay.
Roughly.
So that would be really tough to give that up.
Yeah.
And that more than anything is probably what goes into that fund balance, that cash balance in the fund for future improvements on
Yeah.
facilities.
Okay.
And after we get like, you could probably even get average numbers to even see like, okay, not just one family has a whole week, like these 3 families are.
Oh,
covered.
no, and that's what it
It's
would be.
broke out, so it's not like, where she says like, some people don't like the idea, I'm sure in their head they're thinking, I'm locked down for this whole week to do concessions every night.
No, I'm saying like 15 families would pick June
This
4th
week.
week.
Right.
And you guys communicate, I'll send out an email to everyone that says, hey, you guys are on concessions this week. We got games Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. What night works for you? If one doesn't work, please communicate. So it wouldn't be like you are signing up for the June 4th game in January. No, I couldn't do that myself either. But it would be just that general week that you would, work. And then if we had tournaments, that would be a separate, just because we don't know about those types of things. So it's a work in progress. I definitely agree.
Something to try and see what you do and
Right.
how it works. I don't think it would be as bad once it actually starts flowing. Is
Right.
what, some might think in their head. I don't know. So,
And yeah, otherwise it's going okay. I
is it
did
something
have
we need to
pretzels.
put in the, like, for that, when we come up to like registration, we need to make sure we have that.
Yeah, and
Figure
it'll
out
be,
how we want to do it.
right, it'll be.
I would say again, by November, December,
Right.
figure out.
Same thing.
So,
Some.
you're starting to,
Right,
You
the
start to
basic
look at
parameters,
registrations.
get the registration going pretty much, hell, it's done right now, to be honest, because they make them, like the sports engine thing makes them, and then you just tweak it as they go, so. I'd
like
like
a
it.
little goofy how they do it.
Yeah, it's tricky, that's for sure, it's something. But no,
While we're talking about concessions, so there was like a freezer that broke or something?
yeah, we did purchase a new.
I was gonna ask, is that even something that we need to even know about? How does that work? That doesn't,
A freezer breaks, we buy a new one.
yeah, so, and I'm just making sure that was something.
And that was my fault, I should have just went to Nate, I kind of was
That's
like.
right, I just wanted to make
And
sure
now I
that
know,
was
just
something
ask
we
Nate,
know.
and Nate's like, yeah, we got it, I mean, if you
I'm
don't have
He
it.
asked for 2 and I said 1. I
Yeah,
probably should've done 2.
I was at 6, there was 2 left, I'm like, what do you think? But that would be one thing I would say too, like, I know we ran out of stuff this last weekend, well, there's only this little box freezer in that concession stand, and it's plumb full, I don't know where to put,
Yeah.
I mean, I
Well,
get some of the
to
hot
get
dogs in the
freezers-
back,
To get the freezers, you gotta.
Right,
break up all the
so that would be
stuff.
something I would say is maybe we need like a big deep freeze in the back or a stand, and that's the new one I bought.
The one that we have in the pool.
The one I bought is a stand.
Put stuff freezer here.
Right. And
I
that's,
just wanted to make sure we don't have to wait until.
no, yeah.
It was, and I figured it got covered, but.
No, thank you for bringing that up, yeah. No, otherwise I think it's going good. I know as far, every night roughly we have a game and it's roughly $100 a night. I mean, so you're talking
Most tournaments are
Right.
$1,500 or better.
Right. So you're talking, I mean, $500 a week basically is what it's, you know, so should be good. The sponsors kept moving on there. I sent that letter out earlier. We've made around 7,000 from that. I do think there's a few businesses in the community that I don't know if we missed or I don't know if it just got overlooked. But you know, in the future, I think I'm just going to take the letter there and try to speak with them, you know, word of mouth. That way it's a little more face-to-face type thing. Oh, the signs being created. I started it, and then I would get a new one. And then I started it, and the guy has a design, and then I would get a new sponsor, and I'd say, oh, you got to add this one. So we're kind of going to be a year behind, which stinks, but like the soccer shirts will have their sponsors on the back and stuff. But next year it will be, you know, the sign by the concession stand for kind of. Otherwise, the guy's like, well, I can't keep changing this. And I was
We can put their stuff on the website already.
right, yeah, and I'm working on that. Correct. I'm not a web designer by any means, but getting there. So, and then the future. I know we talked about sports ending for swimming lessons and kind of buying that stuff.
Yep.
I've talked with Bridget and
I think that makes
Brittany
sense.
and stuff, and just that way you get it there. Right, everything you can register for baseball, softball, buy your, you know, all that stuff in one spot. So.
And concessions too. You can sign up.
Right, yeah, there we go. And then, oh, that was a note to myself. I can't coach two teams and do this.
Yeah, don't coach.
So, that just doesn't work very well. No, and then otherwise, I just honestly want to hear what is missing, I guess. Concessions is definitely my downfall. I under anticipate how many, you know, they sold like 85 hot dogs in one night. Like, that's, to
On
me,
Friday.
yeah, like mind-boggling. Like, and the game started at 6. Like, I'm feeding my kids before I go there, but I don't know. So that's and I think it's just a matter of buy a whole bunch, I guess. So you freeze.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the nice thing is if we do have too many hot dogs, or you know, when we do that,
Right.
even at the end of the summer,
And,
we'll get through them.
And I have been going with Sunshine. I think, oh yeah, Sunshine's been super.
Yep.
They're awesome down there. Eddie is, yeah, I've asked for hamburgers and he got us a deal on those. And he got some pre-cooked brats, so now we can just go on there. And
Mental note: no cheese in
Can we
brats.
get them a hot dog?
What'd you say?
The brats that have cheese in them, we can't use the rollers. that was the cheese.
Oh, was it? Gotcha.
What was that, Kelly?
I said, can we get better hot dogs? I did hear people, they just didn't like the hot dogs, and so when I went to the store, I bought like all beef hot dogs. And I know that,
You got like Hebrew National hot dogs?
what?
We're gonna have to charge more then to make it
Well,
efficient.
you can go to, I know Costco has these all beef hot dogs, and they're really good, and I don't think they're that expensive.
Okay.
But those ones that we got, those big jumbo ones, I mean, the jumbo is awesome, but there's, and I tried one, and I don't know, maybe other people like them, but,
Sounds good. I'll see what I can do.
It says honest feedback, so.
Yeah, I wrote down all beef hot dogs. I got no problem. I just like I know once you get into all beef, it probably goes up another amount.
There's
So then
yeah.
instead of making
$2.25 for a pack or
or something, yeah. So that would be the only. You know, if we're only making 10 cents a hot dog, what's the point? I guess we do.
I think this is this year as new and everything has been. I think it's gone really, really well. Having somebody on staff that can handle all these things,
it's a lot of work.
it is.
It is.
You know, it could be one thing in the morning, by the afternoon it switches to something else that needs to be done. I mean, it's a tough job, but I think overall this summer's gone pretty darn well.
It's been awesome, yeah. I think some of these problems with like concessions and having shortages there and like coaching two teams, hopefully, however we try to work it out with that sign up, we don't have that issue. Because I've heard that too, like Pat Tresson, I would have coached Lincoln's full team this year, but I was gone for Canada. I'm like, I don't want to leave these kids out of the lawn for 2 weeks, but I'll help. a lot, right? Pat's like, well, I'll help the other one. So he's coaching his older kid and younger kid. So I know there's a coaching shortage there too. So maybe that will level itself out with the concessions maybe, but there's a lot of time there too. So
No, and that's just, my own self. Otherwise, I'd be at practice and be like, yeah, you gotta go here and get this. Just not doing it.
hold a second.
Well, and that's what it was. I was like, can you hold on a second? Just stuff like that. Right, yeah. But no, although I don't, a lot of it has been good. The concession stand is definitely a bear in itself, but it's, hopefully we can find a solution for that. So.
Awesome. That's good.
Any other questions, guys, on that stuff or anything?
I think we're all good. Okay. We got nothing in the old business, so new business. We have the Lennox and Master Trails plan review, which we kind of went over last time a little bit.
Yeah, we did go over it last time. I guess I was just here tonight to see if you guys had time to kind of think over different thoughts of things maybe you wanted to see implemented in the kind of current plan that we have. Have you guys had a chance to look at anything or brainstorm anything? We can gather around.
One thing that came up in discussion of kind of like the landowner over here is he's looking to subdivide some of his land for housing opportunities.
Oh, yeah.
And that land currently includes some of that floodplain through there. And, is it advantageous for that person to not have floodplain on their land anymore and for the city to consider extending that greenway?
You said this area?
Yeah, I think it's over here.
Oh, yeah. So, you're talking about trying to get rid of the floodplain? Is that?
No, should we, when properties come available along that greenway or along any of these areas where we would extend a trail, should we be discussing with those landowners or future landowners?
It depends
How in love are you with the floodplain behind your property?
I think it depends on, if it's changing hands from one person that's farming to another person that's gonna farm it. I don't know that there would be an interest to selling portions off. When it comes to if a subdivision comes along and someone wants to develop out an acreage or whatever that might be, then that's when it starts to make sense to try to plan those things out, set the land aside and all that. And that we have that kind of structured already with our subdivision regs. So if there's ever a plat in that area, we have that opportunity to say, hey, we were thinking about this and we want you to implement this into your plan. The one that gets hard is if they do eligibilities.
Yeah.
Like if there's some eligibilities here and they do some rural, if we already got a rural subdivision here, those don't always come through as a plat. Now, being that there is one here, we probably would have to plat to get another one there. So
What they're looking at, they're going to have to replat.
Yeah. So I guess we do have that opportunity. That's to me when you would try to take advantage of those opportunities. I don't know if you guys had a chance. We can kind of recap a little bit of what we have laid out here again. But we got the main loop kind of planned around here. This portion's built. This portion's built. We're going to update this map to kind of show what is built, and this is still the current one. We actually did an update just for that app that we did for, I don't remember which one.
I know this was talked about, like, instead of it coming, going here.
Yep.
And then there was, when we rode for the ride around, where was that at? That there was kind of that area
We kind of talked like
is that over here? Kind of something here, or something.
Yeah. That to me brought up like, all right, so you guys have current parks and marks, right? I wouldn't mind seeing like future possible potential park, as a leaf in like orange, so because you're gonna park there, you're gonna park here, just to have it on there that hey, this could be so we remember that hey, we could do a potential park here, right? Potential park there. Just something I kind of thought about. I don't know.
Yep, and we'll have that as an update to this. We'll have this whole subdivision kind of laid out so you can see exactly how it's planned too, and you'll see where the park is planned.
Okay.
You know, I think this film, we talked about Boynton Avenue, we're working on designing this stretch, and so, you know, that's planned to happen next summer.
And you get that trail maybe out to, or at least have a spot to get in and do you talk gravel trail on that.
We're going to Juniper, which Juniper's got a street that goes into that subdivision.
I've seen that.
And eventually, as those houses get built, you'll see sidewalks go in, so that'll create that connectivity to that subdivision. You know, I think last time we did talk about Cleveland. The challenging thing about Cleveland is it's a rural section, so you drive down it, it can't fit a trail in it.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot of land, probably purchasing land there, you're gonna take widening.
You have to go that side,
The road up all the storm sewer system all the way through there. Which we have, you know, we've been looking at 4th Avenue. We did, you know, this is actually built now to, Blaine.
Yep.
I think it was McKinley. And then,
No, you're right.
so then, this other portion that's gravel, to do that, we've always proposed to bring storm sewer up Cleveland. So if we ever did that, that would give us more opportunity to put the middle in out and put something on that side. But that is still a county road. It's not city jurisdiction Cleveland, it's actually a county road still. But not that they wouldn't let us probably do some improvements in there. But I think this is gonna be a hard project to really get done. I think with Boynton, I think your smaller project that you could look at probably getting done is, you know, maybe another portion of, we've got that built now. This is challenging too because the DOT, they didn't want to fund a trail going out, that didn't connect anything.
It doesn't fit in.
Right.
You know, I think it would still be.
You could even get it, if you could get it, I know this is all private, isn't it?
That's
Yeah,
all right.
that's a bummer. If this wasn't, then you have connectivity at least to the,
Yeah.
as far as you can get to the other town.
So now your gaps, to me, are coming across as smaller sidewalks. You know, just getting sidewalks.
Yes.
Everywhere. If you had sidewalks everywhere, that'd make
That'd be a little
huge
different,
difference, you know. Because you've made such good progress on your main loops. I think this should be considered.
I think that
something.
needs to be added in there.
And I think you do just a gravel path even for the time being, and just get some use on
I
it.
think you'd see a lot of use on it, especially by runners, because then you aren't running, you know, sometimes it's so busy and people want that nature
Yep.
run through there.
That's the railroad one, or the old railroad?
Yeah. So I was thinking this one should be kind of like a greenway again. So we might show that as a little bit more of a naturey type trail, and that it connects through here to this railroad right away is a little. I don't know that we'll be able to put something along there like that. We might take that off because it's just not.
Yeah.
If we do, we'll get out the drainage.
Yeah, and they're just the railroads really don't like having paths in there.
Right.
They won't want them. Their right of way would be adjacent to their right of way if there was anything. So I just don't think that all is very likely. But I think this is still here. This old right of way here. I don't know if that's still. Is that some? But this one, you know, the city owns this. You know, so that can be another little naturey connection on that old railroad bed. So we might just invert some of those. But I think when I look at this, you got your big park here, park here. You don't really have. We'll have this park here, but you don't have anything serving. You know, kind of this area right now, pocket park of sorts.
I know we talked, there's something about the water tower?
Yep. So we mentioned that the water tower, the city owns that whole lot there. And with Boynton, you got it kind of programmed for some detention. But that could be a spot where you could maybe try to implement, you know, place it or something. Granted, we already have a park right here with Nielsen development.
Correct.
You know, I look at this here, I don't know what was going on with this piece here.
All Jerry does it.
See, and that's my wife actually said that when we were walking around. She's like, you have a pond, you have trees already set, you can have a little bit of grooming.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that one does car rides.
A little bit of grooming, it could be a Cartwright Park.
Yeah. And that's kind of what stood out to us is that something, even if someone came and wanted to develop a little bit, put some apartment, whatever it might be in there, maybe there could be a little spot to go around that pond, And as we go even this way, we need to be conscious of this land developing. We talked about last time, that's all becoming industrial. This is a good industrial fit, but we still want to make sure we're maintaining sidewalks through there. A lot of people think that because it's industrial, you just throw the sidewalks out, but we still want to encourage that, because we talked about last time, Sioux Falls had to go back and retrofit a lot of theirs because they get people that work here, like at Wilson, that want to go out on their breaks and walk around. They're walking in the street with their big heavy traffic. Yeah, trucks going by. So eventually, as that comes down to one, plan out some park systems for that too. Is there any other areas in town that people try to get to that we're not aware of or showing up on this map? Because that's kind of the other thing that we like to show on these maps is the destinations a little bit, like the walkable destinations. It's usually schools, churches.
All the school facilities are connected.
You want that? The kids get
The biggest thing is we try to get fixed next year with that. I think there's a huge issue with travel from here. In this area, everybody tries to come into town here if they can, and then you have kids and everything walking here. You're coming down the bike path, and the only way to get there, it's just really not so good. Yeah.
When we were out there for the TA site visit last year, there was traffic backing up because there were 5 of us walking down the street for the site visit. If there's no other reason that you do this, this is it.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think Park Drive too, though. I mean, I don't know when that would ever happen, but that gets cluttered, and there's not a lot of room to even put something there. But you ride your bikes in there, and you got kids
There's no
walking.
sidewalk through Park.
Yeah.
It's a park.
There isn't?
No.
And if there's 2 or 3 years going, there's every parking spot's full.
Right,
and,
yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a
It's hard to
mess.
get 2 cars in.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And there's bikes and there's kids running around.
But I don't know, I mean,
Especially by the pool there, yeah, should be.
that would be something that I would say at some point,
Yeah.
whenever
Well, at least
we
for,
look at that.
for kids that are coming out of that pool, they're gonna go south. They're gonna ride on that road instead of coming back out around that school. Just knowing what kids do.
I don't know who owns that land. It's right. There's a little, like,
That access,
yeah,
that's Alton's.
okay. I didn't know if it goes all the way through, but you could at least get it somewhat into the city property.
Yep.
It does go all.
And then,
It does, yeah.
and then they could at least get over to the park ground, or the campground area, and then over. So, but that was a thought I had, but
Well, I mean, we'll take all that and just update the graphic for now. And then, David was here last time, and he mentioned if you guys ever want to take things to a different level, or if the funding requires you to take it to a different level of doing like a report or anything like that, we can do something.
Right.
I think at this stage we just at least update
Update the map.
because then we can use it in some of those applications. And then I'd adopt it into your comprehensive plan, the city's comprehensive plan, so it kind of shows up there.
Yep.
With all your other.
Would it have a refresh image too?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
because obviously other areas are finished off or
Yes.
progress too.
Yeah. So this where we're looking at was done in 2012.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot that's happened.
So I wasn't gonna bring my other ones that we just updated, but
That's fine.
it'll be a whole
Sure.
new drawing.
Okay.
I'd say this is the.
Thank you, Rich.
What's that?
Yeah, this is probably the only other. I don't know about that. True.
Did you need anything else?
I don't think so.
Go ahead and take it. Yeah, absolutely.
We will send that to you, and you can share your group, and it'll take us It might take us a week and a half to get it updated. So.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
For your time.
Thank you.
All right. That's good. The baseball and softball dugouts is next on our list.
I don't remember who wanted this added, but they're not here.
I think we're
Baseball nuggets.
the biggest thing is
on one side.
I think it was
Why would it be?
The middle field?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the north run out.
just kind of a
Did
redo.
that
They were talking
did
about
that make our
painting.
list?
I just saw it last week.
Okay.
I think it was on our list to walk after we
It's
walked
not.
through.
It had to be.
I'm pretty sure it was.
I think it was on your email list.
Yeah, because we talked about painting, and then they said, well, if we're gonna paint,
Replace.
don't go a different color,
Yeah.
have them all the same, match up the big field with green.
I think the painting was supposed to be done by the Lions Club, so we'll wanna do if we need to do repairs before, yeah.
Yeah.
And that bathroom was all, that's gonna paint in the summer too, so. I don't really know.
I know. Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. But it's that one side of the nuggets with a lot where
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
coming off and
yeah, hang away from it, never seen that.
Scott's. Called dirt.
Yeah.
I'll call dirt. They can drag it flat for everybody else.
True.
Maybe they had some scrap pieces of siding.
They say that the plywood's coming down the price.
A little bit.
Yeah, everything.
I seen that.
A little bit.
Should.
I was talking to our neighbor's realtor, and she said Sioux Falls housing market's even like slowing a decent amount. Like they're not just gone in 13 seconds.
Yeah, to just pull back a little. Alright, so this is annual budget estimate?
Mm-hmm. So, I noticed that the last column, it printed, portrait, not landscape orientation, so the last column was cut off on, the printout, so I thought I'd pull it up here. The ordinances we adopted for the park board, when it was formed, required the park board to, recommend a budget to the city council every year. How we've done that in years past is to, the three that I've done is just for me to write what I think the budget might be for next year, and to have the park board review that. And if they're okay with no substantial changes, then we'll just recommend it out to the city council, and it'll become a part of their budget. There are always changes when it gets to the city council level, so I try to communicate those changes as they happen. Hey, we thought we were going to be able to do this, I need to be able to do this instead, we're going to have to cut this, adding this, so much and so forth. So, I think the toughest one to get a handle on in this budget is actually Fund 201. General Fund is the first one you see here. There's two funds that Parks and Rec is budget under. The first one is General Fund, which is funded by property tax dollars and all kinds of other stuff. And so that covers, I think we have half of Steve's wage in there. We have a lot of repairs and maintenance, supplies, materials, things for the ball fields, improvements. We put money in there for field improvements if we can. The softball field, a lot of that came from general fund last year. So one of the things we tried to do last year was to have what we called a discretionary amount for the park board to decide this is the project we want to do this year. So you'll see on under E, under general fund, E 101, 4511, 4330, improvements other than building. We've got another $10,000 in there for 22 as well. And that's essentially meant to be that discretionary fund for the park board to use their collective input and say this is the big project we want to do next year to improve our facilities. Parks is also a part of the general fund, so this is where our groundskeepers are paid out of, all of our equipment comes out of. 22 or 2021 is going to end up going over because we had to purchase a lawnmower, replacing one that was no longer working well. But you'll see supplies and materials is a big one for us. That's where all of our chemicals, all of our sprays, not our mosquito spray that comes out of streets, but or a different bunch, I should say. Machinery, equipment, other things that we need there. So for recreation administration next year, budget proposes a little over $41,000 in expenses, and for some significant increases on wages. It's been a hard thing to get a hold of because our wages just go up and down all the time for parks and recreation. It does for, I know the pool this year compared to last year has changed quite a bit. Some of that's due to COVID, some of it's not. We had, for 2021, we budgeted for a full-time position for parks and recreation. We ended up not having that, so that'll look better this year, but next year it won't. So it's just a hard thing to get a handle on when we're trying to find the right mix of people and materials and supplies to narrow that down. Fund 201 is the recreation fund. So this is where all the registration fees come in, any gate fees, concessions, so on and so forth. That's all recorded under revenue here. So for 22, we're budgeting approximately $38,000 in revenue. And then we have all the recreation administration expenses in there as well. Some of Steve's wage will be out of there. Our umpire contracts, concessions, and then the expenses for all of the programs, baseball, softball, soccer, so on and so forth. Credit card fees, we have to pay every time we run those credit cards on Sports Engine. That does eat up a little bit of that revenue. And then machinery and equipment. The total expenses of just over $31,000 next year for Fund 201. And that should net about $7,000 in revenue, or net revenue for that recreation fund. In that recreation fund, the more money you get in there, you keep building that fund up, and that's where you get those larger projects taken on. We do need to take care of drainage at the softball field, we have the outfield. The outfield lights are moving outside the fence, which is fantastic. But there's still other issues on that field we need to take into consideration and fix. I know there are issues on the middle field. We don't irrigate everything. Some days we may want to. We go through a lot of water. In a year like this, it's about 18,000 gallons a day to water our baseball fields. So that's not something that's necessarily vital, but it's a pretty important thing for us to have good facilities. So, any questions, comments, changes that you see? So Kelly had to leave us, so I can't actually have anybody approve this tonight because there's only 3 of you now. So officially, we'll not be needing the ordinance because it won't be done by July 1st. But it will be done August meeting, I suppose, when we'll pass it. So, okay.
So, just as kind of a point of reference, the new softball field, that we changed the slope and, how much did that cost? Just so we know how far the money goes, type of thing.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at last year's actuals because we paid for the Ava line last year, I know.
Okay.
That was the biggest portion. That's probably $10,000 to $12,000 right there.
Okay, and that was like last year's big project, right?
Correct.
Or did that come from other?
No, that was last year's big project.
Okay.
We also got a grant from Excel Energy to work on that.
Okay.
So, in fact, we need to get a sign up there. Thanking them yet, but one thing that you won't necessarily see included in that price for that field is that the labor was done by city employees, and so that's reflected in wages and salaries. We could probably parse that out.
And that was just what I was verifying, that was like considered the big project.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I would say total probably close to $20,000.
So
But
normally,
that was out of 2 years' budgets, kind of.
It was out of 1 year's budget, but some of the expenses went over into the second year. So,
Thanks.
but it's just honestly, it just changes what that budget looks like at the end of the year. It doesn't actually change the fund balance significantly.
Okay.
so the improvements in a building like that with that 10,000 that you have there, that usually, you're saying that those projects would usually come out of this 201 fund? After it gets built up, they'd move money over to that?
So that would be for larger projects. So let's say we need to We want a turf being filled at the big baseball field. Whole infield is gonna be turf, no grass. Something like that would probably come from the fund balance of the 201 fund and not from the general fund.
Okay.
'Cause that, we're talking, you know, when you get to that, we're talking,
So tennis courts, did that come out of there?
that's coming out of general fund.
Okay,
Yep.
makes sense. So is there a current dollar amount that we have built up in that fund?
Yeah. Each of the quickest way to get there.
We could have made the pool bigger.
So this is as of May. Fund 201 Recreation Fund, current cash balance is just over $39,000. Alright, guys,
That's what the tennis starts with that done, softball field, out of there.
yeah, that should be everything out of there. So that's through May, and it was done by June 1st, so.
Yeah.
Yep. I can't think of anything else that would have to go on there for June.
So once we wait till, obviously we give our vote and send this to the city council, we kind of wait till we hear back on their official numbers to decide, all right, does anybody have any ideas for projects or improvements for the year? Is that usually?
I think we had that discussion in fall of last year.
It's usually that close.
Yeah, that budget doesn't get approved until, September,
Okay.
at the earliest. The state's letting us push that back another month this year finally. So I think October 30th, or 31st, it has to be to the county. So that would leave us November, December to have that discussion, though I would encourage people to start thinking about now, what should those things be? You know, what do you want to spend $10,000 to $12,000 on next year? Okay.
Well,
We may not have a formal, we can probably do an official motion to adjourn and vote, yeah.
can I get a motion to adjourn? Second, all in favor?
That's it.
Aye. Countersign.